What is going on, guys? This is Bradley alongside Zach, and you are listening to the Charm City Sideline podcast. Be sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button if you are new. Helps us out a ton when you guys support us on YouTube. And this evening, we will be reacting to the Ravens' 23-10 win over the New York Jets. Ravens improved to 6-5. That is now 5 wins in a row after starting 1-5, over 500 for the first time on the year. Have the lead in the AFC North now because they have a tiebreaker over Pittsburgh, who lost to the Chicago Bears today. When you put it that way, very positive, as we have to plug and Wrigley in here. What's up, guys? How are you feeling about this one, Zach, or just the day as a whole?
Yeah, it's been a great day in football. We just kind of stepped away to make sure we watched the end of that Cowboys-Eagles game. And alongside that, you look at the Bears, bear down. Shout out Rob, House Huddle. He was on our podcast and we talked to him. Bears are kind of on a roll and they took care of the Steelers for us. And now Ravens in prime position to win the division as long as they handle their games against the Steelers. And it just came in with a weird attitude and approach to today's game. Like, the Jets are not this potentially good defensive team like we saw in the Browns. So when last week we had this, I guess I can say excuse, when we had this excuse of saying Myles Garrett was the reason that they were in the game and the defense is just elite as a whole, the Jets aren't that. The offense is not that. There was not really an excuse besides just poor execution, poor play, poor gameplay through a first half of football, and then the Ravens taking care of it in the second half. The first half was just sloppy. It was probably worse than the Browns game, 3 points total, and it was only on the I'm going to say last drive, but because technically we kneeled it at the end, but technically the last drive, it was completely ugly. This is a great super chat. Appreciate you so much, Douglas, for sending one in. Ugly MF and win, but at least Lamar took no damage. Perfectly said. The offense wasn't great. It wasn't even really good today, but it got the job done in the end. And Lamar gets out, quote, healthy. This whole conversation from last week where we were saying he looks off, and I kept saying, guys, please, it's because the Browns, it's a divisional opponent. Don't care about it too much. This has made me unsettled. I am a little concerned with this. You only beat the Jets in, I guess the fourth quarter, technically. And that doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, definitely an interesting game. What's up, Eli? Yeah, first place in the division. I saw a tweet where it's like, after starting 1-5, you have to celebrate that, no matter how it has looked. Comment from Wrigley: 3 division games these next week. How are you guys feeling? I feel like LJ is still hurt. He seemed a bit off. I don't know. Maybe we're just too spoiled by the awesome stuff that he does. Yeah. And Zach was kind of just talking about this. Like, it's weird. He's clearly not playing with a real, or like, I don't want to say real, like a severe injury, because he's not like limping around. Like, his running gait looks normal. Like, he still took off a few times today. I think it's more so like he doesn't have the confidence to get the edge or, make a move, which tells you that like something or multiple things are just hurting pretty bad. I would say, like, the ankle's probably hurting, the knee's probably hurting. Like, I don't think there's something like awful going on, but I just think he's in pain, whether it's the ankle or whatever, or from all the sacks he's taken the last couple weeks. I think it's taken a toll on his body, and he doesn't look right when he takes off and runs. And even some of his mechanics were off, like stepping into the throws and things like that. I think I'm less worried than like the average person in the Ravens fan base is right now. There's definitely been times in Lamar's career where we're all like, he kind of seems hurt right now. This one has just been 4 games instead of maybe 2 max in the past of it looking like that. And, to your point, Zach, he kept playing banged up and also taking a ton of hits in the next game. And he only got sacked one time today. So hopefully, staying upright today for most of the game will help him, I guess, heal up a little bit as he continues to keep playing. It does part of it sucks that the Ravens play on Thursday, but that also gives them a mini bye. So it's kind of a positive and a negative to playing there. But I am not concerned about like his play. I just think he's playing a little banged up, and I think also the offense is just not right as a whole either.
That's a good way to put it. That the play of Lamar is not what the concern is. It's more of the toll and I guess the uncertainty about injuries and being banged up. This report from Rappaport came out this morning that, like, yeah, it looks like he's going to be resting on Wednesdays for the rest of the year. And that reading that this morning looks like the most obvious, like, wow, great freaking article, Ian. But no, it seems that there is more of a, I don't want to say serious, but a more lingering, uh, painful kind of thing happening behind the scenes we don't get to know about and maybe won't know about at all this year. And it sucks that his play, as in maybe his stats, have gone very well downhill in the last couple. Well, I guess this week and last week, and we still win though. That's what the team is caring about the most. What I talked about last week after the Browns, the best thing you can take away from this is that if you were 1-5 and you said in 5 weeks we would be 6-5, you would not care how any of those games went. You would just care that we're 6-5. And that's how I feel right now. So I hope that the defense can continue how they were playing as well as today. I mean, a couple of big plays that really changed it. And I hope that's what they take forward and just hope the offense gets humming at some point. I mean, we're not going to sit here and say we want the Ravens to be playing the best offensive football of the year right now. We want it against some quality opponents probably later on. So maybe they're just on cruise control. Maybe it's all just kind of, oh, shoot, I probably got to slow down a little because this car's in front of me. It's not really like I got to speed up right now for no apparent reason if you can get there at the same time. Kind of a weird idea of it.
Yeah,
Metaphor.
for sure. What's up, guys? To everyone else that's still, just tuning in here, be sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button. If you are just popping in here, our guy Brady in the chat. What's up, Brady? So happy with the
Hey.
way the defense is stepping up, even though we've played subpar offenses recently. I agree, man. Like, and let's shift to that because we did talk about Lamar and the offense for a little bit there, kind of ragging on them. This defensive turnaround, I mean, and we keep saying like, yes, they have not really played the quarterbacks, but you go back to September, even if they played teams like this, they would be giving up more points than 10. Um, Dre Jones, a sack and a half today. I think he had 2 QB hits. He's gotten a lot of pressure since the Ravens traded for him. Mike Green had a sack today and 2 QB hits. Mike Green has started to look very, very good the past couple games. I think I saw a nice cross chop today. Just a couple times where he got pressure really, really quick, one-on-one with the tackle, and got to the quarterback. So those two guys have been very encouraging. I haven't seen the snap counts, but I think CJ Okoye played a lot today on the
Wow.
D line, and I felt like he looked pretty good. Um, and then, as always, the secondary has been balling out basically all year, even when the Ravens defense was terrible. Um, I want to mention Marlon Humphrey.
Mm-hmm.
So Marlon Humphrey gets a lot of hate from Ravens fans, from his tweets and having his podcast. And I have defended him in the past for being one of the toughest guys on the team, one of the highest effort guys on the team. And he gets surgery on his finger last week and plays today and gets a massive strip, probably the play of the game, on Brees Hall inside the 5-yard line when the Jets are about to make it a 3-point game at the end there. I mean, talk about a team player, talk about like a perennial Raven. Just like Marlon Humphrey, man, I am so amazed by him and his toughness and his commitment to this team. and he deserves a lot more respect from the fan base, in my opinion.
Wow. I'll admit I've been harping on him for most of the season, I think. And along with the fan base, I think they had some reason to, because he just had his moments in there where it just felt like he was the one giving up the big plays or on the opposite receiving end of those bad plays. So now that he has turned it around, hopefully he can just carry that confidence into, the future and in these further weeks. Because that play today it wasn't like a game saving play. Like you couldn't guarantee the Jets were going to go down there again because they had some incredible plays to get down there in the first place, but also snuffing it out and really putting out the fire that the Jets were trying to light in any way and get back into the game. Gotta be happy about it with not really, there wasn't any turnovers up until that point in the game. So separating yourself, separating the teams and cracking it open and taking care of the game. That's what I'm happy about. And sure, Marlon definitely played out of his head today. That was definitely a high point. It makes a case whenever you see him play like that to re-sign him. And that's a big question with a few guys on this team with contracts, but hey, we'll see.
Yeah, Wrigley with the comment. I believe he is the longest tenured Ravens defender. I mean, he's been here
Probably.
since 2017. So I can't think of anyone that's been here longer than that. Um, what's up, Two Federal? Yeah, there was some rough tackling issues this week, despite how awesome Alohi Gilman has been and how much he's done for this Ravens defense. He has like maybe two terrible missed tackles a week. um,
Yeah.
some of them end up mattering a lot. Some of them it ends up being okay. The one he had today, I think it was on Brees Hall, could have been a lot worse if Marlon didn't get the strip inside the 5. Um, the tackling needs to get a little bit better. Uh, I talked about in the preview, Tyrod can still scoot, and the Ravens struggled bringing him down.
Yeah.
Back there, I think there were 2 or 3 times they should have had a sack where he got out of it. So, I think the pass rush actually was pretty solid today. There was a couple third downs where he had all the time in the world, but not as often as we have seen this year and in the past. Dre Jones and Mike Green on the outside on third downs is looking really good right now, and they're probably going to get Tavius Robinson back too. I think I saw like Van Noy, Dre Jones, and Mike Green all in the field together on a couple third downs. I like seeing that.
That's sweet.
Um, so I think the defense is continuing to get even better and better. And I mean, once again, it's like, did anyone on the defense play poorly today? Like, I don't know if you say Gilman played poorly. He missed a couple tackles. Roquan missed a couple tackles, but I don't think you would say anyone had a bad game on the defensive side of the ball, and it's been like that for a few weeks now. Um, Teddy Buchanan's been very consistent, in my opinion, and I think everyone's playing well. Wiggins made a couple plays, Awuzie made a couple plays. Very impressed, and I know they haven't played a great quarterback for a while, but going to be a real test on Thursday.
That's a big one. I want to talk about a lot because the Bengals have a lot around them right now. I think Higgins had a bad looking concussion today, so we might not even see him Thursday. But Jamar Chase will be coming back from a suspension. That'll be really, really fun to cover and talk about later this week. But I'm with you. Defense just in the right state of mind. I don't want to nitpick. I noticed a couple players that didn't really that maybe had a few times, like you just mentioned with Gilman. If Gilman had a 2 or 3 bad mistakes today, I'm not going to call him out for having a poor game. I don't want to say that a couple of these guys were having a poor game because I saw them on a bad end a few times. Other than that, I mean, we can give credit to the Jets a bit. Like Brees Hall in 4 catches, 75 yards. He made the most out of any opportunity he got today. The only reason they were really in the game. And I just appreciate that they tried to stay to the run game. He had 16 carries. Isaiah Davis had 4. They tried to stay in the run department where we had talked about in the past that teams have gotten away from it and lost control of the game. So in this case, they actually kept it close for honestly another quarter longer than other teams had of the last couple of weeks because they stuck to it and at least just made the game close. Because controlling the time or at least evening the time was a different story than what we've seen. So maybe some teams kind of take that of note because I know the Bengals ran really well today. Ran it maybe not really well, but ran it a ton with Chase Brown. So as Flacco's the quarterback and he's not playing too hot. So still, I noticed Brandon Stevens a few times. I like that. There was a lot of moments where you saw the offense of old, where I feel like it's there, it's just not fully clicking. And whether that is Lamar or that is this kind of scared attitude with the O-line, I don't know. But I am starting to get puzzled that it's a Jets team that really can't put a ton together right now. And they put out a backup quarterback who the offense wasn't really the problem. But defensively, the Jets shouldn't hold you to 3 points in the first half. The Ravens figured it out eventually, but I'm concerned that the offense again couldn't get going against a genuinely positively inferior team.
And this really is like, I think we really should sort of take into consideration here that this was a half. Sorry, how do I say this? The Ravens' offense was terrible in the first half, and it was good in the second half. The Ravens scored 20 points in the second half. That is, that would be 40 if they did that twice. They just scored 3 in the first half, and the 3 points they scored in the first half was at the end of the first half. So if the Ravens' offense played how they did in the second half today, also in the first half, we probably wouldn't be talking about the offense that much. Just a really, really poor start. Their first 2 drives at a halftime were 2 touchdown drives. And after that, I believe they kicked a field goal and then punted and kicked a field goal. So second half was perfectly fine. Still maybe not the consistency you'd like to see, but there was a couple drives, a couple sequences that I really liked. Like they had a field goal drive early fourth quarter. Lamar hit Zay for 17 and then Tez Walker for 30 and then Andrews for 9 and then the overthrow to Hopkins in the end zone. That would have capped off a great drive through the air.
Yeah.
Just couldn't cap it off, but still it was nice to see the passing game getting going. I really think, and this is probably going to be like a Captain Obvious take, but you have a quarterback who is most likely playing banged up. And you have a running back who's a Hall of Famer, probably still a top 5 back in the league. And you would think that, okay, your quarterback's injured. You have a great running back. You've historically had a great run game. Let's just get the run game going. The problem is they can't do that because their O-line is not getting push when they run the ball. Derrick Henry, 21 carries, 64 yards. That's just 3 yards a carry exactly. Keaton Mitchell did have 2 carries for 10 yards, 5 yards carry there, but not much volume. It's been tough in the run game. I know Derrick Henry had a solid game last week, but he did have a 59-yard scamper in the second half, and that takes a lot of it off. Henry, in terms of fantasy football, had a solid day because he had 2 very short touchdowns. Just they're not able to run the ball consistently right now. You look at the metrics and the Ravens are, 3rd or 4th in the NFL in yards per carry. But in terms of EPA, in terms of success rate, they're low because they're not efficient. They have a couple long runs a game, but overall they're getting 1 or 2 yards a carry most of the time. And in the past, when Lamar has been dealing with injuries, I think they did lean on the run a lot, and they kind of can't do that right now. So it kind of just sucks. And this is really where it all comes down to being an offensive line issue, and why Zach and I always talk about why guards are important, even though the Ravens don't think they are.
Mm-hmm. And maybe what you were talking about with the one drive that ended with the D-Hop overthrow and kind of stuttering out what looked like a great drive. Maybe that's something that Bateman kind of masks a little. Maybe the connection between Lamar and Bateman is a little more underrated than we'd thought. because it feels like through 12 weeks now, 12 weeks now, that you and one of your top receivers is in D-Hop, who is a, what, a 10-year vet now in the NFL plus, I don't remember, that their connection would be pretty good. In a game like that where D-Hop has that much separation, you would think that that is a touchdown bona fide. If it's any, this is going to sound mean, if it's any high level quarterback. So it is weird that there's even a play and an out route to Likely that is thrown bad from Lamar. And it just feels like there's some kind of a connection that's missing right now. Maybe that's you can give that kind of credit to Lamar injury, or maybe it's to Lamar missing a Wednesday practice. I don't know, but I feel like maybe Bateman masks that with his ability to play heads up a lot more than a few of our receivers. I would take Likely for that type of player too, but maybe Bateman being out has been affecting this team more than we thought.
Yeah, Bateman's always been really good in the scramble drill and coming back to the ball. And we also talked about how great of a route runner he is. And I know he wasn't having the year that we were expecting, but we talked about this last week. Like, still, they do miss him in the red zone area, his ability to win one on one. And on third down, I do think they miss him. And that's a good point. I think missing Bateman or Flowers, they obviously both do very different things, but when you don't have one of those guys, I think it's pretty tough. I almost think even though Zay Flowers is the better receiver, it's easier to have someone else do 70, 80% of what Zay does. There's not another guy on this team that can do what Rashad Bateman can do. And I think that's almost why in the playoffs last year, missing Zay, we saw Bateman step up a lot and maybe less of a drop off than if we would have lost Bateman and not Zay, just because of, last year, you like Anthony Miller could do 65% of what Zay could do. You know what I mean? Like, there were guys that you could put in motion that are fast. Maybe they're not as twitchy as Zay. Maybe they're not as good after the catch as Zay, but no one on this roster is close to the route runner that Rashad Bateman is. Jordan Stout, we have to talk about. Contract year, punter, really had underperformed the first 3 years of his career after being drafted, a fourth round punter. Usually you would expect or hope to be really, really good. I don't have the stats of all punters in the NFL in front of me right now, but he's got to be the best punter in the league this year. I mean, today he had 4 punts. It feels so funny to say this, read off these stats, but Stout today had 4 punts for a total of 246 yards, 61.5 average yards per punt. I mean, you would take 50, you would take 47 yards per punt, 61.5, and I believe he tied the Ravens franchise record today with a long of 74. There was a couple times the Ravens weren't in a great spot, and he just boomed it down there and, pinned the Jets pretty deep. So Jordan Stout, you could argue, was the MVP of the game today. I mean, who else had a crazy game? You know what I mean? Like, Humphrey with the strip was massive. Jones and Green got a lot of pressure. Other than that, man, Stout flipped the field 4 times today. In a way that put the Jets offense in some tough positions.
I know that was an odd thrill in the one that he pinned inside the 5, and it wasn't the help from special teams. It was just him putting it there. That was one of the most impressive punts I've seen like in the league in a bit. Like that was truly something awesome that really messed up the Jets, and that's what it takes in a game like this too, is a punter giving the most favorable to the Ravens field position possible, because an offense like the Jets has to work 5 times as harder, it feels like, when they're backed up that much. I don't know how late that punt was. If it was later in the game, I think it was. The Jets still drove one of those drives. Yeah, the 64 one. That might have been it, or maybe close to that. But it was another great kind of cushion in what was a very uncomfortable game for the rest of the team. freaking psyched for Jordan Stout. That's insane. I didn't realize he was in a contract year. Thank you for saying that. I had no idea. Had
Yeah,
his head off.
I'm trying to find the 74 yarder. But he did have. Okay, yeah, I found it here. So the Ravens had a 4th and 17 at their own 13-yard line. Jordan Stout punts, and the Jets then start with the ball at their own 21. So he flipped the field position from the Baltimore 13 to the Jets 21. And then later in the game, I don't know if you guys remember Andrew Catalan saying 6-7 because he had a 67-yard punt that was downed at the Jets 5. That's the one that rolled out of bounds. So, and I think there's 2 others that were great. So, it's funny to talk about a punter, but he was a big part in the game today. I feel like the only other thing I have to say is just, after the game today, Lamar Jackson said, wish we were in a better situation, but 5-0, winning the last 5 in a row.
Yeah.
We just got to keep it going. And this is how I have felt during the Browns game and during the Jets game. It's like, just win.
Do whatever it takes.
In the past, when the Ravens were playing terrible against an inferior opponent, I would sort of feel deflated, like, oh, if we can't even beat this team, why should I be excited for what could happen later this year?
Yeah.
But, like, I really agree with what Lamar's saying. Like, we just got to keep winning, no matter how it looks. Because, number one, what team in the NFL is good this year? The Colts just lost to the Chiefs. Maybe the Broncos, but no one thinks the Broncos offense is good. The Eagles just lost to the Cowboys. So there's not a great team in the NFL this year. Number two, other good teams in the league lose to and barely beat inferior opponents. The Lions beat the Giants in overtime today. What were the Giants, 2-8? The Lions crushed the Ravens in week 3, and they needed overtime to beat the Giants today. I mean, Jameis Winston mossed someone and stiff-armed someone and scored a touchdown. So I don't think we should be as concerned about how it looks. And I think you should just kind of try to enjoy these wins. And, got to win the next one. Got to win the next one. The Steelers lost today. I think the Ravens have an 89% chance to win the AFC North right now.
Wow.
So, obviously you'd hope the offense looks a bit better against the Bengals. But listen, would you have rather the Ravens scored 20 points in the first half today and 3 in the second half? Like, that might have looked better. You know what I mean? Like, they have a big lead and kind of just don't do anything. But they got better as the game went on today. And you just got to keep winning games. I think you kind of just have to hope that the offensive line gets better. But, like, the NFL is not good this year. There's not a couple teams at the top. Like, the Ravens, I mean, if they win the AFC North, they'll have a home playoff game. If they could win at home, they could, be in the divisional round. So I don't think it's, obviously they're not playing as well as you would like to see them play, but there's still, 6 games left? So who knows? A lot of times in the past couple of years when the Ravens go into the playoffs as one of the quote-unquote top teams and choke in a playoff game, they didn't look very good in mid-November. They caught fire in December and the final couple games in January and became a Super Bowl favorite. So hopefully that happens. If it doesn't, just keep winning and get in the dance and see if you can do anything in the playoffs.
What you mentioned there at the end is a big deal. The whole feel of the team by the end of the year was different than what you felt at the beginning of the year. The feeling of the beginning of the year for this season with the Ravens was, we need to beat the Bills, we need to beat these big teams, and we need to just cruise. There wasn't an expectation of win the chippy, hard, difficult wins that sometimes the Ravens drop in the past. Those games where if we were an 8-2 team and we had played the Browns or the Jets, we might have dropped one of those games based solely on the mindset of this team alone and how they're handling games going into it and taking care of them in game. So when you're 1-5 and you're that desperate, you go to a different place of this hey, we're putting everything on the line to keep these games alive. We're putting a playoff mentality almost into each week, because if you lose one, you might be out of the freaking race. You might not make the dance, like you mentioned. The Chiefs today, they kept saying in that game that if the Chiefs were to lose this and drop to 6 losses, that their chances of making the playoffs crumble. So when your back is against the wall, like both teams are, Chiefs and the Ravens now, and they've dug themselves out of this hole far much more than a Chiefs has, but it feels like these wins are crucial to future success, instead of in the past when you're a very successful team every single week. You have a chance to drop one of these because you don't have everyone's 100% buy-in. Right now, it's 110% buy-in each week from every player, trying to get these games under a belt and continuing to move forward with the year. So however you stack it up, it just feels good to be 6-5, and taking a first place in the AFC North is a massive deal. I wanted to say, though, the stats for this game are ridiculous, because usually you would say, the turnover battle wins it, and it did today, obviously, but the game was kind of handled by the time that those 2 turnovers took place. So Ravens get outgained in total yards by 40. It was still close. Third down efficiency, they were worse than the Jets. Total plays was almost the same, 1 more play than the Jets had. There's rushing yards. We only outgained them by 20. We didn't even get 100 rushing yards. The team just didn't look, again, correct, like you said, like the way we wanted them to look coming into a game where you're supposed to say, this is a get-right game for the Ravens and look good on offense. When we were talking about in the preview of these, hey, Travion Henderson had these 3 7-yard touchdowns, that the Ravens would hopefully correct the red zone issues, and it's still it looked a little better, but it wasn't great today. It does not matter how it happened. It still did get executed at the end of the day, and just showing that you can win these games, and even handedly by 13 points. It feels good mid-year, instead of bashing on us for, if we were again, 8-2, 9-1, whatever kind of crazy record team, and we only beat the Jets by 7 points, we're sitting here just bashing on the team. And it's funny how different of a mindset we have this season with each game right now.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you said. Ravens were favored by 13.5. They won by 13. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they did exactly what Vegas was predicting them to do. They didn't, really underperform in terms of the line that was set for this game. Would you rather it been 33-20? Would you rather the defense given up 20 points to this Jets offense? Like, I don't know. So it's interesting, but obviously a quick turnaround with the Bengals coming to town on Thanksgiving night.
Ooh.
Ravens are going to be in the Purple Rising, so if they win that one, we'll feel probably pretty good going into the Steelers game the week after. But yeah, you got anything else, Zach? I think I'm good.
I think I'm good too. Happy with 6-5. I don't care how it's looked.
Yeah,
I'm pumped.
for sure. Appreciate Douglas for the super chat. Also, shout out to DePlug, Wrigley, Hino, Eli, Narrative, Two Federal, Amarifus, Mad Rasta, Brady. Appreciate you guys for being here. We'll be back on Tuesday with a preview of the Bengals game. Second time of the year we got to do a preview on Tuesday, Zach.
Yeah, weird.
The one for the Dolphins game felt really weird to be doing a preview that early in the week, so we'll be doing that again. And we really appreciate you all guys for being here. Like the video, subscribe, follow Zach and I on Twitter, follow Trump City Sideline on Instagram and TikTok, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.